It is therefore not surprising that many white people in the U.S. are against food stamps and other social programs intended to help the most disadvantaged, because they have the impression that everything is done for black people while they are left behind. According to the USDA SNAP website, 37% of white Americans receive food stamps, 26% of black Americans, 16% of Hispanics, 3% Asians, 2% natives, 16% race unknown. The population in West Virginia in the 1930s was 1,613,934 white Americans. The black population was 114,893. You see where I'm going with this, right? Now, you said what all black people do is sit on their asses and collect welfare, you said? Say it again with a straight face, since you folks love statistics. These statistics says you're a liar when you say black people make up the total of the welfare system. I'll be back. Welcome back. Those who are returning, new people, welcome. Let's get into this. We're going to talk about or discuss the history of the food stamp programs, which everybody seemed to think only black people are on food stamps. And let them tell it, black people are the only ones who get food stamps. Let's go on. The idea for the first food stamp program operated by permitting people on relief to buy orange stamps equal to their normal food expenditures. For every $1 worth of orange stamps purchased, 50 cents worth of blue stamps were received. Orange stamps could be used to buy any food. Blue stamps could only be used to buy food determined by the department to be surplus. The first recipient was Maybelle McFiggin of Rochester, New York on May 16, 1963. The first retailer to redeem the stamps was Joseph Mutolo, and the first retailer caught violating the program was Nick Salzano in October 1939. Over the course of nearly 4 years, the first food stamp program reached approximately 20 million people at one time or another in nearly half of the counties in the United States. Peak participation was 4 million at a total cost of $262 million. The program ended in the spring of 1943 since the conditions that brought the program into being, unmarketable food surpluses and widespread unemployment, no longer existed. On May 29th, 1961, Mr. and Miss Alderson Muncie became the first recipients of food stamps in the United States. McDowell County, located along West Virginia's border with Kentucky in the southeastern part of the state, was the first designated location for a pilot food stamp program established by an executive order signed by President John F. Kennedy. While the first program for providing assistance to lower income families for purchasing food was launched at the end of the Great Depression, the program in which the Muncies became the first recipients was the president of our nation's current program, known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, aka SNAP. After a decade's decline in the coal mining industry, the state's chief economic drive, many communities in Western Virginia were in great need of federal assistance programs to support their citizens, many of whom had never fully recovered from the effects of the Great Depression. Senator Byrd's maiden speech in the U.S. Senate, delivered on January 23, 1959, was a statement in support of legislation He and Senator Jennings Randolph were proposing to increase funding with the Department of Agriculture used to supply emergency food provisions in the United States. This bill was one of several pieces of legislation the newly sworn senators supported to provide much needed aid to West Virginians. The existence of great need among many West Virginia families was clearly witnessed by Senators Randolph and Byrd and more senators who, at their invitation, toured parts of the state and held community hearings in the spring of 1959. A year later, the need for expanding aid programs became a talking point for candidates in the upcoming presidential election. While campaigning in West Virginia in 1960, then Senator John F. Kennedy promised that if elected, he would take steps to create a federal program for food assistance. On February 2nd, 1961, President Kennedy made good on his promise when he signed his first executive order, creating a pilot program to expand food distribution. The first region to be incorporated in the new pilot program was West Virginia's South Coalfields, with the first official sale to the Muncies taking place in McDowell County. Now I would like to put a pin in it and ask those who, when Biden got in office, what did he do the first 100 days? He sent out 1 trillion executive orders. Which one or which executive order was specifically for Black Americans? Because he did a lot of specific things for groups, but he conveniently left out Black Americans. Food for thought. Let's continue. Over the next 3 years, President Kennedy's test program was expanded to 8 regions, encompassing 40 counties in 22 states and major cities such as Detroit, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh. With the success of the pilot food assistance program, President Lyndon Johnson challenged Congress to make the program permanent through legislation in early 1964. Congresswoman Lenora Sullivan of Missouri introduced the bill, which passed and was signed into law on August 31st, 1964. Since the original bill only provided funding for 3 years, a debate ignited early in 90th Congress to determine ongoing funding levels for the program. A bill introduced by Senator Byrd extended the food stamp program for 3 years and appropriated $600 million to be allotted for those 3-year authorization. During the 3 years following the passage of the 1964 food stamp bill, Senator Byrd made it his goal to expand the program's coverage to all West Virginians. Residents of 4 of the state's counties, McDowell, Logan, Mingo, and Wayne, were able to apply for assistance through the original pilot program. Senators Byrd and Randolph worked with state officials and the program's leaders in the Department of Agriculture to make more counties eligible for the coverage. By late 1967, 48 counties were included, and Senator Byrd wrote to the Secretary of Agriculture asking that the remaining 7 counties be added so that their residents could be eligible for assistance. In 1968, food stamp coverage was finally extended to all 55 counties of the state, making it the first to be completely included in the program. All this information can be verified. So, I would like to say to those who are anti-Black and anti-welfare, you had time to rethink how you feel about cutting welfare programs, because you see, if you cut off the program, cut off your nose to spite your face, as I say, who are going to be suffering? You're trying to cut these programs off because you really believe in your head, and it's not really completely your fault, because these racist politicians that need to be sued for violating the Constitution and the media have put it in you guys' head, making it seem like Black people are the main ones getting welfare, which is completely untrue. So the majority of people who are getting all forms of welfare, including Social Security, and we'll get to that part next, are white Americans. So if you cut off these welfare programs, they're the ones going to be suffering the worst. The worst. They're the ones who get a lot of welfare assistance owning homes. It's still a part of welfare. So, did you have time to rethink how you feel? Because I'm finding out that this country has done nothing but try to make the image of white people look pure and superior, and just completely decimate and destroy and crap on the images of black folks. And then what makes it worse is you have these foreigners coming over here 2 seconds into this country adding their 2 cents that's unwarranted. And here's the thing, since you have all this animosity about black people in the country that they helped build, why don't you take your ass back to your country and make something out of your country, so you don't have to come here getting welfare to get where you are. Yes, you're getting welfare too. When you get grants for education, when you get grants for businesses, that's welfare too. So you're being a complete hypocrite, and you're stepping out of line. You're completely disrespectful. Show respect to the people that help you come bring your ass over here and get all the help that we don't even get.
Let's continue. The Social Security Act of 1935 excluded from coverage about half the workers in the American economy. Among the excluded groups were agricultural domestic workers, a large percentage of whom were black Americans.
See, black folks didn't even get Social Security when it first came out. The only group that benefited from Social Security when it first started were white Americans.
Let's continue. This has led some scholars to conclude that policymakers in 1935 deliberately excluded black Americans from the Social Security system because of prevailing racial biases during that period.
You don't say. Just like the Federal Housing Authority. That's why so many white people that own property and homes and not that many black people, because there was literally a law against black people owning property and developers renting or selling properties to black folks. Black people and white people didn't get this on their merits. This country literally catered to them to keep them high on the wealth pole and to keep black people millions and trillions of dollars beneath them. But as I say, so seeds you sow, you shall reap.
2020 marked the 85th anniversary of one of the most consequential social programs ever enacted. The Social Security Act of 1935, considered a signature part of the New Deal reform. Social Security sought to provide a measure of income security for older persons and some other vulnerable populations. It also paved the way for future federal protections such as Medicare and Affordable Care Act. When Franklin Roosevelt signed the bill, he recognized its impact and its promise, calling it a cornerstone in a structure which is being built but is by no means complete. But like other components of the New Deal, the origins of Social Security were rooted in racism. The act initially omitted large categories of workers of color from retirement benefits and unemployment insurance. When Congress held hearings on the bill in 1935, the NAACP testified that a provision insisted upon by Southern politicians to exempt agricultural and domestic workers would disproportionately exclude black workers. It was none other than Charles Hamilton Houston, architect of the legal challenge to the separate but equal doctrine resulting in Brown versus Board of Education, who objected and warned Congress that the bill would exclude Negro sharecroppers and Negro cash tenants, who are just about at the bottom of the economic scale. Despite the objections of NAACP, the Social Security Act passed with these exemptions intact. As a result, 65% of black Americans throughout the country were ineligible for benefits, with an even higher percentage of black Americans in the South excluded from the program. The NAACP, Charles Hamilton Houston, described the law as a sieve with the holes just big enough for the majority of Negroes to fall through. The exemptions were finally repealed in the 1950s, but they had significantly worsened the economic gap between blacks and whites, and I think that's what they wanted. They excluded black people from financial resources for years just to let white folks stack their paper, and then black people be in the background always trying to play catch up. Except for the few that slip through the cracks some kind of way and become millionaires and billionaires. But the majority of black Americans are always playing catch up, just like when it came to education. They did not build this educational system with you in mind. Even though I think it's it's mental slavery. But still, the educational system was not built for black Americans. And then when black Americans fought to get into this white educational system, they had to play catch up. And then they started bringing foreigners over here. And we're not even going to get into the affirmative action. I hope that every single agent, well, you know what? I never cared about these government programs anyway, because it was always demeaning to me. Oh, well, we got this program. Hey, so we're going to have to let at least 2 Negresses in. We have 5,000 employees. 4,998 are white. 2 are black. We are diverse.
Let's continue. Social Security is the nation's largest welfare program, although many whites prefer to call it retirement plan. What millions of black Americans pay into the system ends up going to whites who retire, and Social Security is the biggest type of welfare. Some 61% of welfare recipients are white, while 33% are black, according to the 2000 Census Bureau statistics.
You guys love your statistics. Don't be a hypocrite. When the statistics show that you're getting more of what you claim other people are getting, don't be a hypocrite. You are the ones, and it's been said for years, you are the ones that benefit from the welfare system in this country. You. Now stop lying and saying that we benefit from it, because I'm going to tell you, if we did benefit from it like high percentages like you guys, we wouldn't have that many poor communities, because there are black people who actually give a damn about where they live. I'm one of them. And I know I'm not the only one. I know me and my family are not the only people who look like me who care about where they live.
Ugh. There are many types of welfare: Social Security, AFDC, Medicare, Medicaid, etc. But many people prefer to put a black face on welfare instead of a white face.
That was psychologically the plan.
Let's go on. The majority of Americans who receive welfare checks are not black. The majority of those who receive welfare checks are white people. Coupled with poor health and lack of adequate health care and suffering from the effects of ravages of economic racism, it is no wonder that millions of black Americans live less than whites, die sooner than whites, and do not reap the benefits of money they paid into a system that so stingily and grudgingly doles out pennies for all the money they have paid into such a system.
You know what? When I was working and before I left my job, I used to look at all the taxes that FICA took out of my check, and I used to get angry. I did. I used to get angry at the people that was on welfare, that was getting food stamps. And I'd be like, I get up every morning at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, literally 5 days a week, was not late, and my money is going to you. And you know, it can make you angry. This system is set up to make you angry at the wrong people. All the time, it wasn't my people who was getting the food stamps. It was in the welfare. You know they on Section 8 too. It was them. They still have us acting as slaves to these white people. You get your ass up and take your ass to work, and FICA's taking out this large percentage of your money. We were not even going to get on taxes, and are they legal or not. But the government take your money before you even cash your check, or before it's deposited in your account. And that money is going to these racist people who have the nerves to talk crap about you. And 95% of what they say, if not 99% of what they say, are lies, are incorrect. You sit in your bed at home, going to cash your welfare check, don't have nothing to do but take meth and drink Budweiser while I'm going to work. Let's go on. Black Americans outnumber whites in certain types of welfare, but are blacks getting what they pay into the system? No. The federal government defines welfare as all entitlement programs funded through taxes. These programs, listed as direct benefit payments for individuals by the Office of Management and Budget, make up approximately $730 billion, or 43% of the $1.47 trillion the government will spend this fiscal year. Welfare critics rarely search the Social Security rolls for welfare cheats, but train their sights on people getting various social programs. Many people snot and cry about the numbers of black people who receive some types of welfare, with blacks receiving 33% of welfare types. But racism is at the heart of the standard of living gap between blacks and whites. Still, unlawful race-based hiring practices keep many blacks from getting jobs that pay enough to lift them out of poverty. Until more blue-collar and white-collar jobs open up to black workers, blacks will continue to battle poverty, and the freeloader misconception will continue to lodge as residue in the non-black American mind. As long as blacks continue to face substandard education, systemic racism, urban warfare, and limited paths leading up and out of poverty, the rest of America will find it easy to hate on black suffering in this country until it hits home. With the dying and sputtering economy, with more whites losing ground in the failing recession, depression economy, with more whites losing jobs and finding themselves on the unemployment lines, this society is going to have to find another scapegoat to blame the failing economy on, as opposed to the constant need to blame inner city people for this nation's savage policies of economic destruction. People with intelligent, lucid brains only need to look at the white families streaming into welfare offices in rural New Hampshire for proof that poverty has more to do with economics than race. Yeah, they don't really focus attention on these impoverished white communities with like 95% white people and a sprinkle of other people, and the majority of them are receiving welfare. The once driving state, because you know what, the reason why they don't like to focus on white poverty is because it destroys that illusion they created into making people believe that they are superior. The once thriving state has seen an 88% jump in welfare cases since 1989, yet the state's black population is a meager 0.6%. Now, how do you explain all those hard-working whites ending up on welfare, since to millions of non-black Americans, a welfare recipient can only be black? All across America, there is proof that you can have the best job in the world but get cut from a company looking to keep its profits up at the expense of its employees, a company with its eyes on the bottom line. Then you'll find yourself out of a job, living paycheck away from homelessness, falling behind on your mortgage, falling behind on car payments, unable to feed yourself, clothe yourself, having to decide between medicine, hospitalization, or food, or worse, having to get on welfare. No matter what race you hail from, don't worry. Millions of whites will soon be where so many blacks are now. Millions of them are already there. And that's what they fear. They fear going through what we went through for centuries. Let's continue. People don't consider the National School Lunch Program, which feeds millions of low-income school children, as part of the welfare system, but it is, and again, whites are the primary beneficiaries. Compared to the 17% of recipients who are black, 75% of the children receiving reduced or free lunches are white. The program was established under the National School Lunch Act by President Harry Truman in 1946. The NSLP is a federally assisted meal program operating in public and nonprofit private schools and residential child care institutions. It provides nutritionally balanced, low-cost, or free lunches to children each school day. And I would like to know why a private, nonprofit school get free meals programs. I mean, if your parents had the money or your guardians had the money to send you to a private school, don't they have the money to let you buy food? So that money that you guys are getting, you're taking it away from the children in the households that really need it, who have low income to no income or working poor. You see how they always get them a scapegoat? Always. And got the nerve to tell people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Most black folks don't have boots. You took them all. Let's continue. Whites receive the majority of food stamps, Medicaid and Medicare assistance, housing subsidies, and veterans benefits provided by the government. And I don't even know what else they earn or get, because I was told that there's some kind of secret fund that white folks get. I know it's gonna be something like, well, oh my God, you guys are just making up conspiracies. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I you know what? I do believe it. I do. Because they're too reckless with money. They spend money like, it grows on trees. So, you cannot build a world on unfairness. That foundation of unfairness is not sturdy. It's not sound. And it is like building a foundation on sinking sand. Eventually, one day, it's going to fall from under you. You don't even have a safety net in place. How many white Americans have been brought up to be able to survive in chaos, in a tragedy, in a national emergency? Not too many. During the great stock crash in the 1920s, look how many ended their lives. Black people was like, well, this is everyday for us. So, we barely have $1 or quarters to rub together. So it didn't mean anything to black folks. They continue to live. But those who have been pampered and everything was set up for them, they don't know how to handle it. So what you think gonna happen when it happens again? And it will happen. It's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. You guys you're not built up to handle this. Any little small thing to rattle your cages, you guys are up in arms. Don't know what to do. You scatterbrain. In the meantime, we have been trained. We have been trained to continue to move forward in spite of everything. You haven't, because it's been made too easy for you. That's something that should frighten you. It really should. And so when it happens, you think you're going to run up to us and ask us to help you? How many of you think going to help you? There are going to be some people with a heart that's going to help you, because not all white people have been notoriously barbaric and unfair. There are some genuine people, white people, who genuinely care about everybody, and God bless your soul. I mean that from my heart. These videos where I talk about racism and white people doing the things they do, I'm not talking about the ones who are not like that. So if you're taking it personal and you're not like that, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. Because if you know you're not like that, and I'm specifically saying white racist America or white racist prejudice America, why are you taking it personal? And if you are taking it personal, maybe you need to do some self-examination, because maybe it's still a little bit of tinge of something in there. And you know it's there because when you get upset with a person who look like me, you're 2 seconds from saying, oh, you nick, and then you have to catch yourself before you get punched in your throat. So I just know in my soul there's going to be some changes that's going to benefit me and the people who look like me. Not everybody who look like me, because some of the people who look like me, you was treacherous right along with them. Right along with them. You helped set it up against us. So I am not talking about you. But when it flips, when the script flips, I can say honestly from my heart that I'm glad I am who I am today. because it's not always going to be that way. It's not going to always be hard and unfair for us. I promise you it's not. Just like it's not going to be always looking easy for those called white Americans, relishing in the easy way this country set itself up to help you. And not just the country, the world. All right, I'm out. Thank you for your time and attention. Those of you who hung through to the end, thank you so much. God bless you. I appreciate your support. Thank you for commenting, liking, and sharing, and subscribing. I'm shutting up shop. See you in the next video. Take care.